Welcome to Natural News University, where the experts speak out. If anybody were to see you talk about spring water, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I go run to a spring tomorrow and get spring water. What's going on today in the water supply and what most people are exposed to with water, if that was put on national TV, I mean, that would be it. What is going on with today's common water?
The tap water, which I like to call tap liquid. It's a little joke we have to differentiate it from real water. Because when people say water, they don't mean this stuff. Tap liquid is heavily contaminated on purpose and accidentally. One thing we all are hearing now is that there's some places, there's 55 pharmaceuticals in some municipalities' water. Well, how does that get in there? Well, that's the pharmaceuticals people are eating and peeing out, and that pee goes to treatment facilities where it's recycled and cleaned up, and people are drinking each other's pee in big cities.
And these facilities don't even test for the pharmaceuticals
they don't have to test
that are
for
in
these
the water.
now. Now, we know taking one pharmaceutical can be dangerous. The result of taking 55 combined pharmaceuticals in unknown ratios with each other, that's a complete experiment. We don't know the results. Some places, birth control is present in the water. We know in San Francisco, there's a lot of estrogen in the water there. These are really important facts people need to look at and are being avoided.
What about, you just talked about the unintentional pollution of tap water. What about what's actually deliberately being put into the water? Talk a little bit about that.
Two substances that we really should know about. One is chlorine. Now, chlorine on its own is definitely a bleach. It's somewhat toxic. More toxic is the stuff it reacts with. When it does its job, which is to kill organic life forms, it creates trihalomethanes, which are known carcinogens. Wow. These are things like chloroform gas. That we actually are volatile and come out even more in hot water, which is why when we shower in this stuff, we're in a gas chamber. Yeah. This stuff's dangerous, but it's put in for a reason, and that's because the municipality needs to deliver water without bacteria in it to your tap, and the water mains are old. Please know most of the United States water infrastructure was built in the Lincoln administration. We're talking about old pipes that are rusting, have holes in them, and are right next to sewage pipes which are rusting and have holes in them, and you can imagine how the stuff gets transferred. Wow. So the chlorine must be delivered to your tap. There must be residual. They're doing that to keep bacteria out. And I'll say this, you know, there's places in the third world where you can get sick because they don't do these things.
And you've talked to municipalities or treatment centers. Their focus is delivering the water. Yeah. It's not so much the health issue, is it?
Chlorine is not about your health. It's about delivering water that won't make you acutely sick. Instead, what it does is it damages your body long term with carcinogens.
So what else is
that's one issue. The bigger issue is fluoride for sure, sodium fluoride. Now, we all got sold this bill of idea that fluoride was there for our teeth. My question would be, well, why not put something in there for your hair and your nails? Why not put some other beauty agents in there? It's not really for your teeth. In fact, fluoride incorporates itself into the structure of the apatite crystal of your teeth. Your teeth are a crystal. It incorporates in there, but it actually makes the teeth more brittle because it makes them harder, and harder things break more easily. But it doesn't just incorporate into the teeth, it incorporates into the bones, and the #1 location for fluoride in the body we now know is actually the pineal gland, which is that third eye, which is the place where we make our serotonin, melatonin, and DMT. And it becomes, the average adult pineal gland is completely calcified and fluoridated by the time they are done growing, by the time they're age 18.
Daniel, the pineal gland too, it's our center in our brain for reasoning and thinking clearly about things, or
it's been considered all through history. It's still a bit of a mystery to us, but it's been considered all through history to be the seat of the soul, the seat of spiritual wisdom, the seat of all internal vision. And we talked about in another video that it's a light receiving organ. It actually has photoreceptors. It's inside of us. It's how we become enlightened, light within.
Right. That's where we in a sense that's helping us to stay connected to our higher intelligence.
Exactly. And now, see, fluoride is a key component of many antidepressant drugs, of many of these psychoactive, like Prozac is a fluoride-containing drug. It's been known for a long time that fluoride creates passivity in people. It destroys willpower. It was first used by Russians in their prison camps to pacify their populations, and then later on Adolf Hitler used it in his prison camps to create docility amongst those using it. Now it's in our water for our teeth.
So this is crazy. Of course, anybody hearing this in their right mind would want to get this out of it. So why don't we just get like a water filter, stick it on our countertop, and just filter that stuff out? Can we do it? Can we?
Well, we could get the Brita type filter, the Pure type filter, which are carbon block filtration units. I think it's interesting that Brita is owned by Clorox bleach, which is basically the same stuff as chlorine. Now, the thing to know is that only does what we call Febrez's water. It takes the smell. If you read the box, you go get a Brita filter, a Pure filter, it says removes the smell of chlorine. It doesn't remove chlorine, and it certainly can't take out fluoride, and it definitely can't take out pharmaceuticals. All that does is give you a better smelling, tasting water. We need much more powerful filtration in order to get out things like, we basically need to look at something like distillation or reverse osmosis to remove fluoride, and the problem is those waters are not very healthy or beneficial. Right. This is why spring water is the greatest water in the world. You don't need to do these things, and it's biologically friendly, whereas RO water and distilled water are actually biologically aggressive.
Let's go get some spring water. So back where I live, the local politicians are being told by bigger government, Department of Health agencies that, you know, we got to watch out and keep the spring water away from the people. You know, it's very dangerous for their health. They don't know anything about spring water. If you had them all in front of you, what would you tell them?
Well, I think the most important thing to do is differentiate a spring from surface water and from well water. Because spring water, true spring water, is coming up from an aquifer. You know, we all know about the hydrological cycle from school, which was water sort of evaporates from the surface, and then it rains down, and then it evaporates up again, and there's this cycle.
Sure.
But there's another part called the recharge part of the cycle, and that's where some water is able to percolate down through the surface the way water percolates through coffee grounds in a coffee maker. And it can make it down through the soil, where it's cleaned by microorganisms and the rhizosphere, the roots. And then it passes through the sand. 60 feet of sand is a very, very high quality water filter. Moves through the sand, eventually makes it through the bedrock, makes it through deep carbon deposits, which function just like a carbon block filter, and eventually makes it all the way down to the aquifer. Now this can take thousands of years sometimes even longer. By the time that water comes back to the surface, it has been so completely cleaned that it's totally pure water. And it's been incubated at the right time in the best water filter that exists, which is the earth. You can't replicate that in a little plastic box on the end of your water tap.
Stick it on a countertop.
Right, not replicating the earth's hydrological cycle, which takes thousands of years. Now, aquifers are almost always going to be uncontaminated, and the water comes up at a spring by itself, of its own volition, without a pump. Makes its way to the surface, totally pure, totally clean, totally cold. So unlikely for there to be contamination, because underground there it's dark and it's cold. So the spring water you're talking about probably came up very cold, didn't it?
It sure did. And it's 90 plus degrees in the summer, and the water temperature is always the same. It's that really cold temperature, a little over 40 degrees.
You know it's an aquifer because the water temperature is never changing. So the water comes up cold. It's just like being in a refrigerator, dark and cold. There's no bacteria living down there.
How could bacteria grow? How could,
So the only contamination that happens is at the surface. Now, there are aquifers that are contaminated, and that has to do with certain types of aquifers and certain types of industry or agriculture, but for most cases that's not true. The water's coming up very clean. That's actually, in my opinion, the cleanest water, and not only the cleanest water, Jonathan, but the cleanest substance that you can ever come in contact with. Here's why. That water's been underground since before industry existed. We can test that water for radioactive material and it comes up negative, and we know that it's been underground at least before there was any nuclear weapons detonated. Because the whole surface of the earth, all the surface water and everything on the surface of the earth contains strontium-90, a radioactive material from nuclear detonations. That water's been underground since before any of that. When it comes up, it's the purest thing that you could ever touch, because the whole surface of the earth is contaminated. And what's so cool is you can make 70% of your body out of the purest substance that exists anywhere today. And politicians need to understand, we're not talking about lakes, rivers, and runoff. We're talking about the purest water. It's like a fossil preserved deep in the earth for today, and it's totally clean just about everywhere.